What if the universe of Bleach collided with the grim darkness of Warhammer 40,000, and Ichigo Kurosaki was no longer just a substitute Soul Reaper? What if Ichigo became a Primarch? The galaxy is burning. The Imperium of Man stands fractured, surrounded by Xenos, heretics, and the horrors of chaos. The Primarchs, those godlike sons of the Emperor, are scattered, missing, or corrupted. But this time, the warp does something different. Instead of merely swallowing one of the Emperor's sons, it tears open reality itself and pulls in a soul unlike any other. Ichigo Kurosaki. Ichigo awakens not in Karakura town, but on a dying world in the 41st millennium. The sky is choked with ash. Hive cities crumble under endless war. Demons whisper in the wind. But something is wrong. The warp recoils from him. You see, Ichigo is not just a warrior. He is a hybrid existence: Shinigami, Hollow, Quincy, and human. A being balanced between opposing forces. In a universe ruled by extremes, Ichigo is equilibrium forged in battle. When the Emperor's genetic project senses this anomaly, it does something unprecedented. It adapts. The Emperor, master of gene craft, recognizes the potential. Instead of forcing Ichigo into the mold of a Primarch, the Emperor reshapes the Primarch concept around Ichigo, and thus, a new Primarch is born. Imagine a Primarch whose very soul is layered like a weapon. His base state alone rivals the likes of Roboot Guilliman in physical strength. His reflexes surpass even the Khan. But unlike most Primarchs, Ichigo's power does not stem purely from gene seed. It comes from spiritual pressure. Reiatsu in the warp. Now think about that. In Warhammer 40K, psychic energy flows from the warp. It is unstable, corruptive, dangerous. But Ichigo's power is not drawn from chaos. It is internal, pure, refined through endless battles against hollows and gods alike. When Ichigo releases his spiritual pressure in the 41st millennium, it doesn't just intimidate mortals, it crushes demons. Lesser demons disintegrate in his presence. Warp storms calm when he enters orbit. Astropaths weep because for the first time, the warp feels quiet, balanced. Now imagine his legion. Every Primarch has one. So what would Ichigo's be? Not cold strategists like the Ultramarines. Not berserkers like the World Eaters. Ichigo would attract warriors who fight to protect. His legion would be composed of Astartes engineered with hybrid gene seed traits, enhanced resilience, heightened spiritual awareness, resistance to warp corruption. They would be called the Eclipse Guard. Half black armor, half bone white plating, a visual reflection of Hollow and Shinigami duality. Unlike most Space Marines, these warriors would be trained not just in bolter discipline and chainsword tactics, but in mental balance. Because their Primarch understands something the Imperium never fully grasped: power without control leads to ruin. Now let's talk about his Bankai. In Bleach, Ichigo's Bankai compresses his power into a smaller, faster, deadlier form. Now scale that to Primarch level. When Primarch Ichigo activates Bankai in the 41st millennium, the battlefield changes. His armor shifts sleek, black and ceramite infused with psychic filaments. His blade, a colossal chainsword katana hybrid, hums not with mechanical teeth but with spiritual annihilation. Tensa Zangetsu becomes a relic-class weapon beyond comprehension. A single swing doesn't just cut matter, it cuts fate. Chaos champions find their blessing severed. Demonic princes feel their warp essence unravel. Even a greater demon would hesitate before facing him. And if he taps into his hollow form, that's when the Imperium gets nervous. Because unlike Angren's rage or Magnus' sorcery, Ichigo's hollow power is controlled fury. A white-masked Primarch moving faster than sight. black and red energy tearing through titans like paper. The Mechanicus would call him a miracle. The Ecclesiarchy would call him a sign. The Inquisition? They would call him a threat. Because here's the problem. Ichigo does not blindly obey. He protects people, not systems. If he saw the Imperium sacrificing millions in the name of necessity, he would challenge it. Not through rebellion, but through action. Imagine a Primarch who evacuates civilians before securing victory. Who stands in front of guardsmen instead of behind them? A Primarch who remembers what it feels like to be human. That alone would shake the Imperium more than any chaos invasion. And what about the Chaos Gods? Khorne would be fascinated. A warrior who loves battle but fights for others. That contradiction would enrage him. Tzeentch would try to manipulate Ichigo's hybrid nature. But here's the twist. Ichigo has already fought beings who manipulate destiny. He has shattered illusions, broken through absolute abilities, and defied inevitability. His very existence disrupts schemes. To Tzeentch, he is a paradox. To Slaanesh, he is frustrating because Ichigo does not crave excess. To Nurgle, he is untouchable. His spiritual energy burns corruption like sunlight through rot. Chaos cannot easily claim someone who has already conquered his inner darkness. Now imagine Ichigo meeting the other Primarchs. Roboute Guilliman would see in him a moral compass the Imperium desperately needs. Lion El'Jonson would test him. Leman Russ would respect his warrior's spirit. And if Ichigo ever faced Angren, it wouldn't be hatred. It would be sorrow. Because Ichigo understands what it means to lose control and to fight your inner monster. That battle would be legendary, not just fists and blades, but philosophy versus fury. But the greatest question is this. What would the Emperor think? The Emperor created the Primarchs as tools to conquer the galaxy. Ichigo was never a tool. He was a protector. Over time, the Emperor might realize that this unexpected son represents something he never accounted for. Balance, not domination. If Ichigo became a Primarch, the Great Crusade might have looked different. Worlds brought into compliance with less extermination. Rebellions quelled with understanding before annihilation. Perhaps even the Horus Heresy would shift because a Primarch who bridges extremes could sense corruption before it spreads. Imagine Ichigo standing beside Horus at the brink of betrayal. Would Horus fall if someone like Ichigo challenged him not as a rival, but as a brother? That single change could rewrite history. But this is Warhammer. Grimdark always pushes back. The galaxy would test him. Hive Fleet Leviathan would descend. Necron dynasties would awaken. Orcs would gather in endless war. And Ichigo would fight. Not because he seeks glory, but because someone has to stand between the darkness and the innocent. And that is what truly makes him terrifying in the 41st millennium. Not his strength, not his Bankai, but his refusal to become numb. In a universe where hope is rare, a Primarch who embodies both light and darkness, who has faced his inner hollow and emerged stronger, would be revolutionary. He would not just be another warlord. He would be a symbol. And symbols are powerful. Powerful enough to inspire billions. Powerful enough to threaten chaos. Powerful enough to change the Imperium itself. So what do you think? Would Ichigo become the Imperium's greatest defender? Or would the brutal reality of the 41st millennium slowly erode even his unbreakable will? If you enjoyed this crossover scenario, imagine what would happen if other Anim legends stepped into Warhammer's endless war. The galaxy is vast, and the warp is always watching. For the Emperor, or perhaps for balance.